Murdaugh denied bond today following murder charges in the deaths of his wife and son. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us for News 19 at 7. I'm Darcy Strickland. I'm in for J.R. Berry tonight. We begin in Walterboro, where Alex Murdaugh pled not guilty to the murder charges and the deaths of his wife and his youngest son. Murdaugh was at the Colleton County Courthouse early this morning, where he appeared for the first time to face those charges in connection to those deaths. Their bodies were found shot to death on their hunting lodge property in Colleton County last June. We have team coverage tonight from the courtroom in Walterboro, where Murdaugh stood for his bond hearing. News 19's Nate Stanley and Rachel Ripp are both in Walterboro with more.
It was a quick hearing today in the Colleton County Courthouse behind me. Only about 25 minutes of the bond hearing that ended with Alex Murdaugh being denied bond. The state claims that Murdaugh murdered his wife and son Paul in June of 2021. He's accused of shooting both of them at the family's estate. Both the prosecution and defense agreed that details of the case should be kept out of the media and the public prior to the trial. The state did not give any further information on what they think happened that night of the killing. Both the defense and the prosecutors agreed that bond should be denied and a gag order should be accepted. This would mean no public comments about the case. It would also mean that all motions in the case would be private, with a chance to seal them before any of the information could be made public. The sides also agreed that there should be an accelerated trial, although they didn't agree on how fast that should happen. The defense claiming that the case should be in front of a jury by October. The state thinks the trial should start in January. It's not clear yet when the next hearing will be for Alex Murdaugh. Continuing our coverage, Rachel Ripp has more on how this has impacted the community.
I've been here in downtown Walterboro all day talking to locals. Some people tell me they have no idea what's going on when it comes to the Alex Murdaugh hearing. Now, other people say that they're just not interested. Some residents say they are, and that they are very opinionated about Murdaugh being in jail. And some residents say they have local ties to people in this case. It is a small town after all. One Florida man tells me that his cousin is Murdaugh's lawyer. One of the other locals I spoke with tells me when she sees a bunch of reporters in town, she gets worried because it's not a normal sight.
Well, today I just walked down here, down Main Street, and I just saw the news car, and I was like, well, something is got to be going on here in Walterboro. And I was like, okay, so I seen lots of cameras everywhere, so I said, must be something going on.
There's certainly been a lot of activity over the course of the last few days, more business, more foot traffic here on Washington Street, which is their main street here in Walterboro. One of the local hotel managers tells me that typically on a Monday night they see about 20 vacant rooms. But because of the Alex Murdaugh hearing, they had about 3 rooms open, leaving that hotel pretty much full. Reporting in Walterboro, Rachel Ripp, News 19, WLTX.
Murdaugh has been making national headlines since 2019 when his now deceased son Paul was involved in a deadly boating accident. We'll get to that in just a few minutes, but Murdaugh was most recently indicted in connection with a money laundering and painkiller ring. Investigators say he issued millions of dollars in checks that someone else cashed. He's also been indicted on charges of stealing more than $8 million from his own law firm and their clients. In October of last year, SLED arrested him on charges that he misappropriated funds from a settlement involving the death of his former housekeeper. The not guilty plea marks the latest addition to the Murdaugh story, which has been developing over the past 3 years. Let's go back to 2019. In 2019, as we just mentioned, a deadly boating accident involving his now deceased son Paul made headlines. His son was charged with boating under the influence, resulting in death, and 2 counts of boating under the influence, resulting in bodily injury. Mallory Beach is the name that you're probably you associate most with that. Then in June of last year, Murdaugh and his wife and his son were found shot to death on their property. That's why he was in court today. Those are the 2 murder charges that he pled not guilty to today. Not long after their deaths in September of last year, he told authorities he was shot in Hampton County on his way to Charleston. However, authorities say that's not exactly what happened. Instead, they say he hired a man named Curtis Smith to kill him. Smith was charged last September SLED says Murdaugh admitted to planning the shooting so his son, his oldest son, could collect life insurance money. Murdaugh's law firm alleges that he misappropriated money, which led to the end of his tenure at the firm, and he was fired. He was then suspended from the practice of law, and he was disbarred earlier this week. And then finally, there is the case of his former housekeeper, which we mentioned just moments ago. It's believed that Gloria Satterfield died from injuries in a fall at the Murdaugh estate in 2018. However, authorities still have questions about that case, and her body has since been exhumed in that investigation. Now, for the very latest on Murdaugh's trial or on his case, there's been no trial. His bond hearing was today. For the very latest on his case, you can find this story on our website at WLTX.com. You can also look for these headlines on our News19 mobile app.
Well, if you're in downtown Columbia, over by Williams-Brice, it's got mostly sunny skies right now. Sunset's about an hour and a half, but it is very humid. Currently 88 degrees, relative humidity 67%. It feels like almost 100 degrees outside in the shade. Now, we do have a lot of cloud coverage in the areas along I-95 in the southeast Midlands, but what we're watching is these showers and thunderstorms that are moving through the upstate. As it heads down, some of those are strong, and that could impact us tonight. So we're forecast some showers, some strong storms. As we start off in the morning, a low is 76 degrees. It'll be mostly cloudy by lunchtime, but very humid as the temperature gets to 87. And then we're looking at a high of 94, a heat index of 107. But then we're looking at the possibility of downpours and strong thunderstorms. We're tracking those storms in your forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Darcy?
Efren, thank you. The Sumter County Sheriff's Department has arrested a man charged in connection to the shooting of a 23-year-old mother who was simply walking with her baby in a stroller yesterday. It happened, the shooting, on Rye Street in Sumter yesterday afternoon. 53-year-old Stephen Galloway is now behind bars, charged with a number of crimes, including attempted murder. The Sumter County Sheriff's Department says the victim and Galloway didn't know each other, describing the shooting as a road rage incident.
He was upset about her walking too far on the roadway, and he mouthed off at her. She mouthed off back. He circled the block and came back. The argument continued. This is just a bad man that back where he belongs.
Sumter County Sheriff's Department says the woman is alive and in stable condition. They say the baby was not hurt and has been placed with a family member. Earlier today, a judge denied bond for Galloway. Deputies say they're also expecting charges of child endangerment. Tragedy can strike when a gun is not handled properly. The National Rifle Association is urging gun owners and users to always keep their gun pointed in a safe direction. According to the association, this is the primary rule of gun safety. You should also remember to keep your finger off the trigger if you're not ready to shoot. And you should always keep your gun stored unloaded until you're ready to use it. With that being said, tomorrow local law enforcement will be giving out free gun locks to the Columbia community. You can find the new gun locks at the Be Safe block party hosted by Serve and Connect at Columbia's Hyatt Park from 4 until 6 tomorrow evening. And as gun-related incidents have recently been reported around the Midlands, the IRS is facing criticism after a new website reported the agency spent more than $500,000 on ammunition. But is that claim true? Our National Verify team takes a closer look.
In mid-June, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz expressed outrage to conservative media outlets that the Internal Revenue Service purchased about $700,000 in ammunition over 3 months this year. 2 weeks later, Gaetz introduced the Disarm the IRS Act. The bill's co-sponsor, South Carolina Representative Jeff Duncan, tweeted he wants to stop the IRS from stockpiling ammunition. Verify viewer Ian sent us some articles about the proposed law and wants to know if the IRS really made the purchase. So Ian, let's verify. Did the IRS buy approximately $700,000 in ammunition between March and June of 2022? Our sources are the IRS and the Government Accountability Office. Like most federal agencies, the IRS has its own arm of the law called the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, which is tasked with investigating organized crime, money laundering, and cyber crimes. The agency tells Verify it spent $696,000 between March and June of this year to buy ammo for its more than 2,000 sworn agents. The IRS says it's been buying ammunition regularly for more than 100 years. A 2018 GAO report on the IRS's spending on ammunition confirms the agency historically spends about $700,000 in ammunition a year. So, yes, the IRS did buy approximately $700,000 in ammunition between March and June of 2022. The agency tells Verify the amount spent represents nearly its entire ammunition order for the year. Gates' bill remains in committee and is not expected to advance for a full vote. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
We now know the name of the person who was killed in a hit-and-run incident on I-26 Monday night. State troopers have identified the victim of that accident that happened 11:45 Monday night on exit 106 as 23-year-old Sierra Parker. She was killed by a car while in the westbound lanes. The Highway Patrol is still investigating the incident. They still don't have information on the make, model, or description of the vehicle that was driven. If you have any information that you think can help law enforcement, you can call Crime Stoppers and remain anonymous by dialing 1-888-CRIME-SC. Over in Colleton County, there is a boil water advisory for some customers. If you live in the Eagle Point or Waibu Point subdivisions, you should boil your water for at least a minute before using it for cooking or drinking. And if you live near one of these areas and you've seen a loss of water pressure, this boil water advisory applies to you as well. Also, don't use any ice that's been made with water that hasn't been boiled. The advisory is because of a water main line break. Of course, we'll be sure to let you know when this boil water advisory is lifted. A Columbia man is working to provide some light for parents whose children have been tragically killed. Cornelius Jones spends his time honoring the lives of those children by turning their graves into monuments of things that they loved. Jones currently works out of Orangeburg County, but says he hopes to continue expanding his services across the Midlands to help even more families. All right, folks, stay with us. Coming up after the break, Chief Meteorologist Efra Fonte is going to have a closer look at your midweek forecast. You're watching News 19 at 7 on WLTX.